Hello and welcome to Marketing Global Edition. With just me this week, Jasmine Montgomery. Piers is on holiday. I'm afraid it's summer, that time of year when everybody disappears. So I have been left to my own devices. And I thought I would talk to you about a story that, frankly, I don't think Piers would even let me do, because he would know that I would rant on this subject, probably swearing alert, and probably get cancelled for doing this story. But he's not here. He's on a beach. So I am going to do it anyway, because there has been a really interesting news story this week. In Vogue France, August edition, there was the first ever AI-generated ad with an AI-generated model. And this is from the brand Guess. Guess just went from being the brand you wore in high school when Abercrombie was too expensive to the brand that accidentally sparked a conversation about algorithmic beauty imperialism. It's the most cultural relevance they've had since 2008. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to hold it up so you can see. Right, here it is. There is the offending ad or ads. For those of you who are listening on the podcast, I will describe it to you. So what we have is a double page spread with two different images. On the left, we have a very beautiful, if rather cheesy, blonde woman, 𝐻𝐿𝐦𝐞𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐦𝐩𝐬, wearing a very short little pantsuit, sitting at a kind of shabby chic coffee table with flawless legs on display and sort of twinkly blue eyes. And on the right-hand side, we have the same model, supposedly, in a sort of stripy chevron dress, standing in front of, again, a kind of shabby chic, this time hat shop with some flowers around her and a handbag. And I have to say that for the amount of fury it has caused online, these are some pretty banal generic ads. But everyone has gone nuts because, yes, this is the first truly AI-generated model in a fashion legacy magazine. You know, this is not some weird experimental zine. No, this is Vogue, the glossy temple of fashion orthodoxy, now letting synthetic avatars rub digital shoulders with Anna Wintour's disciples. And lo, the world has lost its mind. The great backlash has been hilarious. Reddit, Twitter, social media melted down faster than a Balenciaga knockoff in a tumble dryer. And people are shouting in the comments in capitals: deceptive, disturbing, lazy, thin, blonde, white. My favourite one was somebody who said, "This is possibly the most deplorable thing ever to hit the fashion market." And I think we've got to give it to her. I mean, move over heroin chic from the 90s, forget the massive amounts of textile waste that the fashion industry produces, forget all the brand counterfeiting, forget sweatshop labour. I mean, you tell this to a 13-year-old girl working in a sweatshop in Bangladesh, you tell her that the dress she is being paid 10 cents an hour to make is being advertised by a woman who did not even get flown to Milan for a photo shoot, and you watch her cry. Yeah, I think, this is huge. It's the biggest thing ever. Okay, so to be fair, I've got to say that, real models have been photoshopped into oblivion for decades, right? So at least this time we've skipped the step where we're pretending they're eating. Anyway, I'm going to have a look at this backlash and give you my thoughts as to whether I think it's valid or not. I'm going to take some of the different themes of the backlash one at a time. So a lot of the comments on social media really focused on the fear that AI-generated models reinforced unattainable beauty standards and will exacerbate dissatisfaction and unhealthy comparisons, since the models don't even exist. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think that my comparisons of myself to Gigi Hadid or Kate Moss were really so healthy. I don't think they've ever been healthy. I have never compared myself to the 0.001% of women who were, let's face it, born having won a genetic lottery in such a spectacular fashion that no amount of Atkins diet, downward dog, or liposuction could get me anywhere near those women. I don't think that those comparisons were ever healthy. I have never had a healthy comparison to a woman in any fashion magazine anywhere. So the fact that the bar just got lowered even further just doesn't really fill me with the rage it clearly fills some women. I mean, when my number of healthy comparisons to Vogue models is 0 and somebody lowers the bar, the number is still 0. And now all the models in the world get to eat brownies, which I consider to be a win for womankind. Let the robots do the workouts and leave the humans alone, I say. Who are we kidding? I mean, technology has been involved hugely for the last few decades already. Have you ever seen the before and after of the shots of the real models before and after they were photoshopped? You know, fashion imagery has not been real for years. Okay, so some people are really upset about the lack of transparency, the lack of labeling that it was done by AI. And I think that they're right to say that labeling is important. If you are considering using AI in an ad, our best advice is absolutely to label it AI generated. But the labeling on this ad was so tiny, it was so microscopic, and Vogue didn't issue a microscope with the magazine. So normal people are just not going to be able to see this tiny little strip that says it was AI generated. So a lot of the comments online relate to the lack of racial inclusivity in this Guess ad. And I'm going to talk about it, although I probably have no right to. I mean, I am very white. I'm like iridescent, glow-in-the-dark white. So I don't know if I'm allowed to have an opinion on this, and I will respectfully defer to my darker-skinned sisters. But I frankly feel that, yes, the Guess model is like unbelievably annoyingly white and blonde. But I feel like a lot of the comments online are really aimed at Vogue, rather, Vogue, darling, what happened? Why do you have this white model? And it seems to me that, yes, it's really annoying that the model doesn't exist, but nor does Guess's diversity training. And I feel like actually a lot of the flack really belongs to Guess for the fact that they've gone, because actually if you look at Vogue, both the UK and the France edition this month, there are a lot of women of colour in both magazines, for which I give Vogue a lot of credit, but not Guess, whose idea of beauty seems to be rather blonde, rather Aryan. But there is only one plus-size woman in the whole of British Vogue this month. There are actually like 600% more gender-fluid people than there are plus-size people in British Vogue, in as much as there are like 6 gender-fluid people in the magazine and there's 1 plus-size woman in the whole thing. And Paris Vogue, the French, they just don't do plus-size. There are no plus-size women in this magazine. I think that freaking out about the presence of an AI model in a Vogue magazine is like walking into a P. Diddy party and getting upset at the brand of baby oil he's using. I mean, there is an elephant in the room, and I don't see people talking about it online. And that is body representation. I mean, I know it's a sort of third rail of fashion advertising. You're never allowed to show anybody fat. As a non-stick insect myself, I feel qualified without fear of contradiction or cancellation to shout, Vogue, why after 70 years of feminism are you still so scared of cellulite? What did cellulite ever do to you? Were you almost crushed to death by a well-rounded bottom in your childhood? Do you have nightmares about being trapped between 2 thighs thicker than a golf club? Do the 6 gay men in Paris who make all the decisions about what women should wear this month really want to turn women into hot boys? What is your fucking problem with fat? Seriously, AI does not replace humanity. It reflects it, right? And there has never been a time in the last 70 years when it was beautiful to be fat, or even just a normal female body shape. Yes, body positivity was just starting to be a thing before it got wiped out by Ozempic. But when the fashion world said plus size, they were talking about size 12, not size 20. How bad is the fat phobia in our society? What blows my mind is when it gets to the money, right? So imagine if you owned a store, you own a shop, you sell stuff, and someone suggested to you that you should only sell your products to people who are 5'4" or over. No, sorry, 5'2" person, you cannot buy car tires or bread or stamps from us. We only sell to people over 5'4". That would be bonkers, right? you'd be leaving half the population on the table. You'd be leaving half the money on the table. In the UK, half the population is under 5'4". You would be leaving out half of the target market and half of the money. For what reason? And yet clothing stores in the UK do not sell to women over size 16. 50% of the UK population is over size 16. That's size 12 in the US. Brands don't cater to them. Fashion ads don't show them. Retailers don't sell to them. Okay, so they don't throw them out at the door. They don't say, excuse me, madam, I can see that your thighs spread out when you sit in a taxi in a skirt. Could you please leave the premises? No, but they don't make clothes for them. And it amounts to the same thing. They leave 50% of the potential revenue of the market on the table because they cannot bring themselves to make fat clothes or even just real women clothes. I'm not talking about a niche. I'm not talking about the 10% of women at the end of the bell curve, although I think they should be catered for. I'm talking about half of the entire diagram. No, take your money away. We don't want your dollars here because we are disgusted by your muffin tops. That is what the fashion world is saying. And if they're saying it now again with the help of AI, I cannot really get up the bile to give a shit, frankly, because again, I say AI does not replace humans, it reflects them. And it's reflecting our commercially myopic, psychologically damaging, utterly cruel obsession with unattainable beauty. You may not like the reflection in the mirror, world, but don't blame the bot or the AI that showed you that what you've been consuming all these years in your monthly diet of fashion ads, for which you willingly fork out £3.99, is a smorgasbord of technically conjured imagery that is already so artificial that it ought to be delighted that it's now also being called intelligent. I think that if used properly, AI can actually make advertising far more accessible. It could show garments on loads of different body types and loads of different racial profile women and so on in such a way that it's much easier to do than in a photo shoot where you have to bring in loads of different models. So I think AI is an opportunity to massively rethink inclusivity. But the other massive point here that the internet commentators are missing is that not everybody is Prada. Not everybody can afford the Milan fashion shoot with all of the models flown in and given champagne. AI will let small independent brands compete with with those who can afford the $1 million shoots. And that's a fabulous thing. The high fashion world may not be ready for it. They may not want it. But if we take our snooty pants off for a minute, it's a brilliant, and very accessible thing for small businesses and for, indie brands and so on. It's going to open up the market hugely. So much so that one of our sponsors, Adsy, with whom I'm very involved, is looking at that opportunity to leverage the power of AI-generated ads for small businesses. It opens doors of accessibility to businesses and brands. Another really important thing that was being talked about in relation to this AI ad, of course, that needs to be addressed is the question of job replacement. Maybe AI is terrible for every human being who spent the last 10 years building a career in modeling, in styling, in lighting, in photography, in retouching, in casting, in location scouting, or even just holding reflectors up on a shoot. But I'm not as worried about job displacement as some people are. I think there will be plenty of new jobs. I think a lot of old jobs will go, but the people behind those jobs who are really important will come on board with new software and new tools and techniques. I think there will be plenty of jobs. We're seeing an industry that now has a whole new job of prompt whisperer, which is a super interesting job that we employ, people who know how to get the best out of the AI models like Midjourney, like DALL-E. I was really interested in what Richard Osmond had to say the other day on The Rest is Entertainment. He's the author of all sorts of fabulous books, and he gave a really full-throated and fabulous defense of the role of AI in the creative industries and talks about how prompt whisperer, the writing of those prompts, the coming up with the concept in the first place and saying, what do we want to visualize through our AI model? What do we want to bring to life? What's the idea? What's the concept? How do you prompt the AI so you get something incredible? And then how do you edit and make curatorial decisions? It's still going to be really, really important. So, you still have to have people who've got an eye, who've got visual acuity, who've got that innate eye that somebody like our creative director, Hannah Shaw, has so brilliantly at 7, an eye for something, who can look at something and say, yes, that's the image that's going to move people. I think there's still tons of roles for people. They may be new roles. And I think with every kind of industrial or technological revolution, job titles die off, but new jobs take their place. And I look forward to the day that a woman is celebrated for what she imagined and brought to life as a prompt whisperer on AI, rather than for her thigh gap. So my basic problem with the Guess ads is less that they are AI generated than that they are just dispiritingly, disappointingly banal. Like someone trained the AI that generated them on a 1990s German clothing catalogue. So Paul Marciano put his name to the ads as the art director from Guess, and frankly, Paul, I am surprised you did that. I'm disappointed in you. You had all the power of AI at your fingertips, and all you could think of to do with it was this. AI has powers way beyond that of a human photographer. I actually applaud you for putting the first AI model ad in Vogue. It's a moment in history. It's really interesting. But why didn't the ad blow our minds? Why didn't it show us what the future could look like? Why did you limit yourself to a pastiche of Cindy Crawford in some ubiquitous, boring setting? You could have had an interspecies model in an extraordinary, out-of-this-world setting with never-before-seen lighting effects. But instead, you gave us a poor man's Giselle Bundchen standing in front of a poorly painted shop wall. I mean, serious lack of imagination, my friend. Okay, so at least she has 5 fingers on each hand, right? I do a lot of stuff in AI, and AI has got better and better. But really, up until very recently, every time you generated an image of a human, you had to count the fingers, because it so often gave you 6 fingers or 8 fingers, or it gave you 3 hands coming out of an elbow. But the AI has got so much better. It has got a lot better. But I would still argue that there is a touch of what we call uncanny valley about the model in the Guess ad. Uncanny valley is what we call that slightly sick feeling that you get in the pit of your stomach when you look at someone, when you look at an AI-generated human, and you just get sort of sucked into the soulless hollow of their eyes. I think it's a bit like what it would be like looking at a Dementor from Harry Potter. It used to be really bad, Uncanny Valley, and now it's got much better, and it's quite hard to spot. But I wonder if we will always just somehow be able to detect the difference, that feeling of soullessness versus a real person with soul. And it's something that the fashion industry really needs, because I was talking to somebody in the fashion industry just the other day who was saying that really a lot of the high fashion magazine ad space has become really samey, really ubiquitous, because there isn't very much spending in luxury brands at the moment. And so you used to open she was saying that you used to open a magazine and see images that, you know, from a photographic perspective, from a styling perspective, really challenged you, seduced you, intrigued you, surprised you. And that just isn't happening right now because of the sort of lack of money in the fashion and luxury world. But surely if AI is going to be used correctly, it could surprise us again. It could give us something we haven't seen before. There is so much that it can do if the mind behind it is creative. And my biggest beef with these ads is just how boring they are. So my real conclusion here is that the problem isn't the technology, it's the lack of imagination behind it. The Guess ads are reflecting a beauty standard we have consigned to the past, hopefully, a lack of diversity, a lack of embracing of real women and real beauty, which isn't, I have to say, that evident in any of the other ads either. I think it is more on the diversity side, less so on the body image side, on the size side. But really, it's reflecting a lack of imagination. It's reflecting a view of women that nobody aspires to, but it's also just really dull. So I think that AI models and AI photography and ads will shape the future of fashion for the next few years. The only question is whether they'll go beyond what we can see in a magazine today. And I really, really hope that they can, and that they'll look like all of us, not just the highlight reel from someone's Pinterest board in 2014. So sure, guys, the model may not be real in this ad, but neither, I think, is the outrage, frankly. I think that if we're not ready to do better ourselves as humans, and we're not, let's face it, let's get off this AI high horse and not expect AI to be a better, more moral person than we are ourselves. That was my take on the Guess ad in Vogue, August 2025, Paris edition. Go and have a look and do let us know what you think. And we'll see you same time, same place next week. Thank you so much. Bye for now.
Marketing Global Edition is sponsored by Adsy, the ad generator for small businesses that serves you effective and affordable ads in seconds. And by 7 Brands, the international advertising and branding agency that has worked with clients around the world from Coca-Cola to Facebook.